how are you doing? How are you doing? It's been, 2 months now. And I just think it's a question we should be asking all of our Jewish friends.
Yeah. I've been, the day after October 7th, on October 8th, I met with our entire clergy team and staff, and I added one word to your question, which I so appreciate coming from you, which is, how are you really? Because that changes the depth of the conversation. So how am I really? I am exhausted. I am disappointed. I am determined, focused, grateful for my friends who have reached out. And we're at war. And I'm using the weapons I have to help win this war. And that's how I am. I'm at war. So let's go. Bring it on.
What are you disappointed in?
I'm disappointed in people's inability to disambiguate Hamas on October 7th from other, admittedly more complex, nuanced challenges in the Middle East for and because of Palestinians and Israelis. That is a complicated story. Hamas on October 7th, to me, is incredibly simple. But when you conflate it with the complex, in a sense, you're moving away from truth and you're moving away from fact. There's this old Yiddish expression I love, which is a half-truth is a whole lie. And when you conflate Hamas on October 7th with the other complexities and with the fact that the Palestinians have been the doormat of the Middle East for a century, full stop, they have. When you conflate those two things, you're telling a half-truth. So I'm disappointed in people's inability, by the way, extraordinarily bright people in some cases and incredibly ignorant people in others, their inability to disambiguate and I think it's more as we go up the IQ ladder here, deliberately conflating these things because they don't want to face the truth about what happened on October 7th, and they want to blame the victim. They want to flip the script. So that's disappointing. I'm disappointed in most, I can't say all, but most of my friends with whom I marched for their causes, and now I realize that we were marching on a one-way street.
Well said. When you watched, the most prominent display of this recently was those 3 university professors testifying before Congress, which SNL thought the need to mock would target Elise Stefanik, not the university.
There's tone deaf. There's tone deaf and there's tone deaf, and that was really bad. Yeah.
Right. It was, the report says Cecily Strong was supposed to play the Elise Stefanik part and said, I'm not doing this. Actually, I'm not doing this. I don't feel comfortable with it. They had to bring in the newbie who's getting all sorts of blowback now. But when you watch those 3 university professors, the thing about that moment to me was it was so indicative of what we're hearing now from this woke left. Just this cluelessness, this, as you say, tone deaf in their case, as well as SNL's attitude in response to the calls for genocide of the Jewish people. It was like, well, let me consult my Black's Law Dictionary, as opposed to showing any humanity.
Yes. Well, first of all, I think they were over-lawyered. Not that that's an excuse. They're fully grown adults with PhDs who've been leading institutions. So they intentionally absorbed and reflected back that legalese. Okay. But the hypocrisy is what angered and disappointed me. And now maybe we can get into what I really think is going on underneath this. I think that to some degree, the hypocrisy teaches us about the underlying issues of which Jew hatred is a symptom, but not the disease. First of all, this idea that they can't, now here's where disambiguating is the enemy. right? The fact that they can't conflate what happened on their campuses with earlier examples of racism and hatred and hate speech and death threats, the fact that they can't put Jews in the same category is disgusting. And look, I'll pose a rhetorical question because I think you and I both know the answer, Megyn. Imagine if there were a couple thousand kids, white supremacist kids, marching at Columbia or Brown or Harvard or MIT or Penn in white sheets carrying nooses and shouting from sea to shining sea, America will be free. How long do you think it would take those university presidents and their boards to shut that down? It would take about 5 minutes. We know that. I don't think that's a stretch of the imagination. They'd call out the National Guard if they had to walk those black kids into school to get the education they deserve past those haters. And they would fire faculty who supported those racist haters. But somehow when it comes to Jews, we're in a unique category. And when I say unique, I mean unique. We're there all by ourselves. Now, I have some thoughts about why that is, but let's accept, first of all, the fact that there is gross, rampant hypocrisy on our college campuses. And I think, and this, I wish I didn't think this, Megyn, but I do. I think a part of it is if you want to hate and rebel against privileged white people or successful white people or majoritarian culture, which is clearly Western, you can do it if you just start with the Jews, because most people don't really care. If you want to pick on what you perceive as white privilege and patriarchy, as long as your first target is the Jews, you kind of get a free pass. And I think that this Jew hatred is a symptom for many people of that deeper, even more troubling disease. And so that's one theory. I stand by it personally. That's my view. But at the very least, we can agree that when you are a feminist out there marching for Hamas, you're a feminist marching for rape. If you are an LGBTQ person out there marching for Hamas, you are marching for a group of murderers who, if you were in Gaza, would mutilate your genitals, execute you, and behead you. And that's who these people are out there marching for. If you are a person of color and marching for Hamas, you are unclear about the fact that more than half of Israelis are people of color. So what does this mean? This means either you are incredibly ignorant and or your Jew hatred is so powerful that it subordinates all of the other ideals and values you claim to live by. In other words, your professed values and your lived values are not the same. If you're a feminist out there marching for Hamas, marching for rape, that means your hatred of Jews subordinates your very identity. And that's where we are.
EnviroCleanse just announced a huge holiday sale. Let me tell you why this is important. They're predicting another triple-demic this year. And the best way to fight a cold or a flu is to just not get it in the first place. And with their limited time holiday sale, you will save 30%. So why EnviroCleanse over all the others? Because EnviroCleanse is proven to capture and destroy cold and flu viruses other purifiers miss. EnviroCleanse's military-grade technology wipes out bacteria, toxins, and mold that can make you sick. That's why the Navy chose EnviroCleanse to protect the air on board our Navy ships. Get EnviroCleanse for your home. before a virus affects your whole family. Right now, you'll save 30% during their holiday sale, plus get fast free shipping. Visit ekpure.com and use code Megyn30 for 30% off your order. ekpure.com, code Megyn30. ekpure.com. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.